Hey everyone. Now, I just kind of skimmed through Inside Out, just watched certain parts here and there, and it's the kind of movie that you can watch on your own or best with family and stuff, but it's pretty good. I mean, I saw it in theaters. I think I did a review that you could see here on my channel, but it's definitely a movie to own if you and check out if you've not seen it yet. It's really, really good. Now, the potential is there for an Inside Out 2 to be made. And a lot of people are probably thinking, well, Brian, didn't we already get some kind of a sequel with the with the all new short that's added to the film, like added to the Blu-ray? Yeah, we did, Riley's First Date. But even though I haven't seen it yet, I'm sure some of you have. That moment at the end of the film when Joy kind of asked again the question of what could happen now that Riley was 12, we kind of get that answer in Riley's First Date, but there's potentially more. There's potentially more to be built upon in the world of Inside Out, and I definitely see that happening. True, we've got our main core of characters in disgust, fear, anger, joy, and sadness. But we also have other feelings as well, and I'm sure a lot of psychologists and doctors and all that, will come out and say that there are more than just the 5 core feelings or emotions, the 5 core emotions. But what could they be? And could additional emotions be developed inside of it? Well, the way I look at it, Inside Out 2, should a sequel be made, and I think there's a guarantee it's going to be, is definitely going to take its time with this film. I look at this film, and I think I mentioned this in my review a couple months ago, back in, I think it was June or July. I said that that I look at this as being like the next Toy Story franchise. Here we have a character in Riley that we could watch grow up. Maybe it takes one or two more films, but we could definitely see her grow up into a young adult, a young lady. And here you have 5 core emotions, but yet you could have more. You see, we all know, there's certain things that kind of give you that cliffhanger feel that a sequel will be made. The updated control panel has the puberty button locked up and ready. Locked up until it's ready to be unleashed. So there's that. So there's that. You got the swear word control panel, which will be pretty interesting how they do that. But the way I look at it, this is so much there that you could definitely work on for a sequel. And I'm sure that whatever they did with Riley's First Date definitely can be worked into that sequel as well. Now we know, again, like I said, there are 5 core emotions. But do these emotions grow? Or do we get additional emotions? Well, the way I look at it, there's a possibility, and I believe I said this in my review, we could get additional emotions. We could get a new emotion that's based around being flirtatious, a flirter. We can have someone that's around, romance and and all that. Someone that, basically we could have maybe 2 new emotions added. But if not the case, if that doesn't happen, and we have the 5 core emotions of joy, disgust, anger, fear, and sadness, then you definitely have to develop them. You have to cause their emotions to grow, because when you look at all the other emotions, especially with the parents, you notice how they're kind of more mature. It's like this, basically the same emotions as what Riley has, but they're more mature, they're more settled in now. So in a sense, you can almost look and see that these emotions are going to grow as well. But the question is going to be, what exactly will be the plot of Inside Out 2? What could they build upon from the first film besides that cliffhanger and possibly what happens in the short? Well, I look at it this way. I look at the fact that Riley's going to probably be looked at as maybe, depending on whenever the sequel gets made and released, should it happen, but looking at her being around maybe junior, senior year of high school. I mean, if it gets made in the next 3, 4 years, that makes sense. You know, if it gets released in the next 3, 4 years, it makes sense that she would basically be in that age category. And it's all, and the concepts, the story and plot and concepts they could come up with Riley and the other characters involved could be really, really intriguing, and I think could be really fun to see. I mean, I look at a character like Disgust, and I see someone like her and Joy being like the main core of the movie. Now, not saying that's a possibility, but I definitely see Joy and Disgust being kind of like what Joy and Sadness was. It's like, I look at the fact that if you're going to have Joy be like the leader, be the centric character that sometimes has to go outside of headquarters, then you got to have somebody accompany her. Now we see in Disney Infinity, in that game, you have Anger accompanying her. So in my opinion, I think it's got to be Disgust for the sequel. Because both kind of borderline on that possibility of being involved with her growing up in an emotional way to where she now is starting to, not only, let's say, want to be on her own and do her own thing, but also be romantically involved with somebody. And if it's the same guy from the short and at the end of the film, then so be it. But you could definitely see that Joy and Disgust would be like the main core, if you know what I'm saying. Hold on. I could see Joy and Disgust being like the main character, well, not the main characters, but kind of the central portion of the plot, similar to Sadness and Joy. I could see that. Because like I said, their emotions kind of can be evolved and work off of what, men and women, boys and girls go through as they get older. The flirtation, the joy of, like with Joy, you could have it evolve for her towards the joy of having someone special in her life, and Disgust being, part of that in a sense. I could see the possibilities there. Now, I'm not saying that they should take the same, hold on. Now, I'm not saying they should take the same plot line, if you will, the same story elements and all that from the first movie and put it in the sequel. I'm saying that they need to really, bump it up in a sense. I mean, you take a look at Toy Story, the Toy Story franchise. Probably the best example of stories not being the same. I mean, you take a look at the fact that the main human character, Andy, grew up in the series. And I see that with Riley here. I see that similarity and the possibilities that the emotions inside of her of joy, anger, disgust, fear, sadness, could have. And like I said, I look at joy and disgust as being that central plot point or centric point for the plot. Like something's going to happen. Like, let's say Riley's going to be depicted as a junior or maybe even a senior, and let's say she's on the verge of, okay, let's say she's depicted as a senior, and like Andy in the third Toy Story is depicted as being in her final years of high school, and yet she has developed such a close friendship with all these different new friends she has, as well as the fact that she and whoever her love interest have been together for quite some time. To me, the adventure you could have here would be just unbelievable. I mean, Disgust could definitely be someone that's like, you know what, I don't want to leave. Riley shouldn't leave. You know, it could be something adventurous. And again, I just feel Joy and Disgust would be a great centric point there, especially from the romantic side of things of, you know, Riley not wanting to, you know, be away from her boyfriend if she has one in the sequel. You know, not being away from her boyfriend and all that, and you know, you could have it, and that could, in a sense, in traditional Disney, could be a centric point as well, a part of the plot as well, because he would have the boyfriend, whether it's the same character or not, from the end of the film and short. You could have this guy be maybe get accepted through a sporting scholarship or some kind of scholarship to a university way out there, like on the other side of the country or something, and yet you would have Riley be accepted into maybe a local university or a university up north in maybe Washington or back in Minnesota, and the boyfriend, like let's say, is in Florida or in New York. And you know, to me, I look at that kind of a story element to really help out a centric, something like that, to really help out that centric plot point that you would have some characters like Joy and Disgust be involved in, because it'd be like, okay, how do they try to help fix things, and then you also incorporate sadness, fear, and anger, and you know, you give them proper viewpoints and stuff to help Riley be like, you know, I don't like this. Hold on. Get in here. Come on. Come on. Trying to get my dog in, sorry. Hold on. Hold on, folks. Hold on, folks. Sorry about this. I'm trying to get my dog in. People are riding the bikes across the way, and of course, being dog, you know, she has to bark at them. But anyway, like I was saying, I see, you know, the situations that I mentioned as being like a centric story plot for a plot point for the movie, for that sequel, should it happen. And again, the centric players I could see being Joy and Disgust, and you know, this time you could have sadness and anger and fear be the ones that have to wait for them. Like I said, you have to, and like I said, you would have to have something like, and my dog just bumped into the camera, sorry. You know, you have to have, you know, like, this time you could have sadness be with anger and fear, and be the ones that have to try to wait for them. And you don't have to have some kind of destruction or everything. I mean, again, you could have similar plot points or similar situations, but not so much. I think more along the lines you look at an expansion. Like certain areas that should stay the way they are because they don't need to be expanded, but yet all of a sudden they're being expanded because of decisions that Riley's making and stuff like that. Again, these are just my opinions of what I think a good story plot could be, especially if you have Joy and Disgust in the role of joy and sadness of the first film, but not, oh, we got to get back to headquarters. It's more like, you know, something happens to where they have to leave headquarters and try to get Riley to make the right decisions. Like the expansion, like I said, of certain areas that shouldn't be expanded on because, you know, Riley should be done with that. And yet all of a sudden the other areas are shrinking, not being destroyed, but shrinking, and, you know, or something happens. Like certain areas have to be expanded on the right way, other areas should not be expanded on because that part of her life has already been built, it's stabilized, that's okay. So, again, like I said, I definitely see, something like that happening. Now, if they decide to go and, let's say, add a new emotion or two to the cast, that's fine. I could see that happening. If they decide to, make it all of them outside of headquarters, trying to, fix whatever happens, as Riley gets, let's say, ready to graduate from high school or gets ready to enter her senior year. To me, it's things like that those are possibilities I could see happening as well. Another thing I think is going to happen is, not only are we going to get a romantic kind of subplot and sequel because of Riley being older and having a possible boyfriend, maybe the same character like I said, but I see possibly that being developed with maybe disgust falling in love with fear. I mean, you kind of get the idea almost that fear, just by the fact that he's leaning on the console looking at disgust, it's like, you can take that for whatever you want, but it's almost like, in a sense, that could be the starting point. It could be. I mean, that could be the major starting point. Again, it's something that I think they might work on to kind of help get the ball rolling. Like maybe disgust develops something for fear and vice versa, and yet now she has to be with joy or with everybody, and she has, they have to fix this entire thing. So, again, I just look at the fact that the main thing about the second film, that if it should be made, I look at it the fact that we're going to see an older Riley. She's going to probably be around junior, senior year of high school. And if it's senior, she's going to be on the verge of graduating. If it's junior, she's going to be on the verge of being a senior. And she's going through all these different emotions. She's got a boyfriend maybe. I mean, I just see a romantic subplot being involved in this and something happening to where they have to, again, venture outside of headquarters to stop something from happening. And one of the things I think, in my opinion, I think what they're probably going to have to stop is the expansion of certain lands, or even the building of certain lands that don't need to be built because that's not who Riley is, or the expansion of other lands being expanded on, they don't need to be because that's said and done, it's stabilized, and that's how it should be. And the focus should be on the more important lands and all that. I mean, I could see stuff like that. I could see something like that. So, to me, do I see an Inside Out 2 sequel? Absolutely. Do I see a plot line to what I've seen probably happening? Well, it's my opinion, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get something similar. But that's just my thoughts on my thoughts on what a possible Inside Out 2 could be like. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I'm out.